At Christmas, my sister got a $60,000 BMW. I received a $2 piggy bank and drove off. Then my dad left a voicemail. Return the car or we'll report it stolen. Funny thing, it was registered in my name. The sheer, gut-wrenching injustice of it still burns in my memory. Christmas morning, and there she was, my sister Chelsea, practically pirouetting with glee over a brand new BMW, its keys glinting under the twinkling tree lights, while I sat there, utterly numb, holding a cheap plastic piggy bank that symbolized exactly how little my own family truly thought I was worth. That was the day my entire world shattered, and I finally understood. This wasn't an accident, it was a pattern. I was cross-legged on the hardwood floor of my parents' Portland living room, the air thick with fake pine scent and the smell of fresh betrayal. Chelsea, at 32, was bouncing on her toes like a teenager. My own Beamer, she squealed, her manicured fingers twirling those shiny keys. My dad beamed with this unfiltered, sickening pride, and my mom, bless her heart, clasped her hands under her chin like she was watching a miracle unfold. That glossy white car, complete with a ridiculously oversized red bow, sat out in the driveway, a monument to parental devotion that probably cost more than everything they'd ever spent on my Christmases combined. And me? I just stared at the plastic piggy bank in my lap. It was shaped like some cartoon character I'd outgrown a quarter-century ago. The price tag they'd forgotten to remove? $1.99. Open it, honey. Mom chirped, gesturing at the little rubber stopper on the bottom. My fingers felt like lead as I complied. 2 crisp dollar bills fluttered out. It's the start of your future home fund, honey, Dad announced, waving a dismissive hand. You're always so responsible with money, not like some people. He winked at Chelsea, who pretended to look offended. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until Mom rushed to fill it. Chelsea needs reliable transportation for her new graphic design clients. Those artsy types expect a certain image, you know? Chelsea dropped onto the couch beside me, her expensive perfume instantly assaulting my senses. Don't worry, sis, she said, patting my knee with this nauseatingly patronizing gentleness. I'll drive you around whenever you need. Your little Toyota must be on its last legs by now. My little Toyota. The one that had just carried me through 7 hours of mountain passes yesterday. The Toyota I'd paid off myself, 3 years ago, every single cent. The Toyota that, honestly, was more reliable than any relationship I had in that damn room. I couldn't breathe. 34 years of moments, just like this one, flashed before my eyes with perfect, painful clarity. This wasn't an anomaly, it was the pattern of my entire life. Just that morning, I had carefully wrapped their gifts, a leather briefcase for Dad that cost 2 weeks of my salary, a silver bracelet Mom had admired in a Seattle boutique, a professional camera lens Chelsea had casually mentioned wanting. I'd bought them all by setting aside a little from every single paycheck for months. I'd rehearsed my big announcement during the entire drive down from Seattle, senior structural engineer. The promotion I'd earned through countless nights and weekends of extra work, designing buildings that would stand for generations. I'd imagined their faces lighting up with pride, finally seeing me as something more than just Chelsea's responsible older sister. Maybe this Christmas will finally be different, I'd whispered to myself at each rest stop, each gas station, each lonely mile marker. My hands trembled as I placed the piggy bank on the coffee table. The plastic made a hollow, desolate sound against the glass. Excuse me, I managed, my voice sounding like it belonged to a stranger. Bathroom. I walked, no, I didn't run, up the familiar stairs, past the wall of family photos where Chelsea's face dominated every single frame. The bathroom door closed behind me with a soft click, and then I twisted the lock. My reflection stared back, eyes too dry, face too perfectly composed. I pressed my palms against the cold marble counter, waiting for tears that wouldn't come. Instead, a pressure built in my chest, like concrete hardening around my lungs. People talk about heartbreak like it's some abstract concept. It's not. I felt each chamber of my heart contracting painfully, blood struggling to push through narrowing vessels. My sternum ached like someone had pressed a knee against it. This is what dying feels like, I remember thinking. Not dramatic, just diminishing. The night stretched endlessly, a dark, heavy blanket, as I lay awake in my childhood bedroom. I could hear Chelsea's laughter from downstairs, mingling with my parents as they planned her first road trip in the new car. At 2:17 a.m., I finally sat up. I packed quickly, taking only what truly mattered: the faded, stuffed bear my grandmother had given me, the photo album from college, the small wooden box containing my first professional blueprint. The expensive gifts I'd given them over the years? They stayed right where they were. They were never about gratitude anyway. The house was silent as I carried my suitcase down the stairs. My house key felt cold in my palm for a moment before I placed it on the kitchen counter, right beside the coffee maker that would brew in 3 hours. They had made their choice. Now I was making mine. Streetlights blurred into watery halos as I navigated the empty highways. The dashboard clock read 3:42 a.m., Christmas morning. My windshield wipers battled against thickening snow while Bing Crosby crooned about white Christmases from the radio. I twisted the volume knob until his voice faded to silence. "Have yourself a merry little Christmas," I whispered to the empty passenger seat, my voice breaking on merry. The irony burned like acid. Through Portland's southern outskirts, my old Toyota's heater struggled against the bitter December chill. 7 years old, 200,000 miles on the clock, this car had carried me through college, through my first jobs, through promotions. It never complained about mountain passes or tight parking spots. Unlike that gleaming BMW sitting in my parents' driveway with its ridiculous red bow, my car had earned its place in my life. Around 6, my phone buzzed against the center console. I glanced down to see Mom's face lighting up the screen. Not, "Are you safe?" Or, "Please come home." Just, "Did you remember to pay the electric bill for the cabin before you left Seattle?" The cabin they bought for weekend getaways, the one Chelsea used for Instagram photo shoots. A semi-truck passed, spraying slush across my windshield. For 3 terrifying seconds, I drove blind until the wipers cleared enough space to see. My hands shook against the steering wheel as memories flooded faster than the wipers could clear them away. 5th birthday. Chelsea's princess party. Professional decorations, pony rides, a 3-tier castle cake, 30 neighborhood kids in party hats. My celebration the following year? A grocery store sheet cake, 2 friends from kindergarten, party supplies from the dollar bin. "Your sister needs the social stimulation," Dad had explained when I asked why. "You're more independent." Independent. Their code for, "You don't need us." High school graduation. Valedictorian. My carefully crafted speech about persistence and dreams. Empty seats in the family section because Chelsea's junior varsity soccer team had an away game. "We'll watch the recording," Mom had promised. The VHS tape sat unwrapped on my dresser until I left for college. "Your sister needs the encouragement," Mom had said. "You always succeed without our help." Without help. Their code for, "You're on your own." College years flashed before me as highway signs counted down miles to the California border. Working 25 hours a week at the campus bookstore and cafeteria. Taking maximum course loads to graduate early. Stretching student loans and scholarships while Chelsea explored artistic inspiration across Europe on our parents' dime. "Your sister needs to find herself," Dad had insisted during one of our rare phone calls. "You've always known exactly who you are." Known who I am. Their code for, "You don't deserve exploration." My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. I let it ring until voicemail caught it. The first hint of dawn lightened the eastern horizon as tears blurred oncoming headlights into golden streaks. I pulled onto the shoulder, hazards blinking, and pressed my forehead against the steering wheel. The patterns crystallized with sudden, shocking clarity. Dad controlling the money, withholding from me while bankrolling Chelsea's every whim. Mom manipulating emotions, making me feel selfish for wanting even scraps of attention. It was a perfect system. One parent handling financial favoritism, the other maintaining emotional control. My phone rang again. Not family this time. Monica Perez, my college roommate turned lifelong friend. "Where are you?" Her voice, warm and worried, filled the car through Bluetooth. "Somewhere in southern Oregon," I mumbled, my voice hollow, unrecognizable even to myself. Heading south. To where? The line went quiet for a moment. Then, come to San Francisco. Stay with me. Family doesn't treat family like this. Monica knew. She'd witnessed the evidence firsthand during college. The packages that arrived for me containing practical necessities, while Chelsea received designer clothes. The holiday breaks when I stayed in dorms because flying home was too expensive, the same years my parents took Chelsea to Aspen and Maui. I can't impose, I started, but she cut me off. Stop. You've spent your whole life being the helper. Let someone help you for once. The words cracked something open inside me. Help. Such a simple concept, yet so foreign to my experience. In my family, help flowed one direction, toward Chelsea. Toward my parents. Never, ever toward me. Okay, I whispered, surprising even myself. Text me your location every hour. Drive safe. I'm making up the guest room. The call ended. I eased back onto the highway, wipers clearing fresh snow. For the first time since leaving Portland, my shoulders lowered slightly from their defensive hunch. By 7:30 a.m., I crossed the California state line. The Welcome to California sign gleamed in early sunlight. My phone screen showed 17 missed calls, 32 text messages. With deliberate motions, I turned off notifications from Mom, Dad, and Chelsea. The silence felt weightier than any accusation. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since yesterday's Christmas Eve dinner. A small roadside diner appeared ahead, its neon open sign a beacon in the morning light. I pulled into the nearly empty parking lot. Inside, the warmth enveloped me like an embrace. Coffee-scented air mingled with the sizzle of breakfast on a distant grill. An older waitress with silver-streaked hair approached with a coffee pot. Rough night? She asked, filling a mug without waiting for my answer. Her name tag read, Gloria. Rough life, I muttered, then felt immediately embarrassed by the melodrama. Gloria didn't flinch. Honey, I've been serving coffee for 40 years. I know heartbreak when I see it. Family or boyfriend? Family. She nodded, sliding a menu toward me. Blood makes you related. Love and respect make you family. Her weathered hand rested briefly on mine. The special's good today. Comes with extra bacon. I ordered the special and wrapped my hands around the coffee mug. Gloria's words echoed as I watched snowflakes dissolve against the window glass. Blood makes you related. Love and respect make you family. For 34 years, I'd been related to the Collins family. Perhaps it was time to find out what being part of a real family felt like. 3 weeks later, in San Francisco, my phone vibrated against the nightstand for the 13th time that morning. Dad's number. Again. I counted to 10 before silencing it, adding his call to the growing cemetery of voicemails I refused to resurrect. The first week, their messages had held confusion. The second, concern. Now, in week 3, they'd evolved into something darker, manipulation wrapped in parental authority. Iris Elizabeth Collins. Dad's latest voicemail thundered through the speaker when I finally checked. If you don't return this car immediately, I'll report it stolen. This childish behavior has gone on long enough. The Toyota. My Toyota. The one with my name on the title and 7 years of paid-off receipts. I crushed the throw pillow against my stomach, swallowing the acid that rose in my throat. Mom's message followed. The doctor says my blood pressure is dangerously high because of the stress you're causing. Is that what you want? For me to end up in the hospital because you're being selfish? I deleted them both without responding, though my finger hovered over the screen longer than I care to admit. My temporary sanctuary in Monica's spare bedroom felt both foreign and familiar. The walls were painted a soft terracotta that caught the morning light, warming the space in ways my Seattle apartment never did. On the dresser, my laptop displayed an email I'd rewritten 14 times. Dear Mr. Sanderson. Dear Mr. Sanderson. I'm writing to formally request a transfer to the San Francisco office, effective immediately. My finger clicked send before I could reconsider. No family connections. No favors called in. Just my work record. My reputation. My worth as a structural engineer. 3 hours later, the approval arrived in my inbox. Just like that. As if I'd always been capable of creating my own path. You got it. Monica appeared in the doorway, reading my expression. Her dark curls framed a face lined with genuine happiness for me. The concept still felt foreign, someone celebrating my accomplishments without making them about themselves. I start Monday, I confirmed. Now I just need to find a place. Monica grinned. Already called Andrea from book club. She manages apartments in the Mission District. Rent control. Safe building. 20-minute walk to your new office. You didn't have to. I wanted to, she cut me off, dropping onto the bed beside me. Friends help friends. No strings attached. Novel concept for you, I know. The words hit their mark. No strings. No obligations. No scorekeeping. The tears I'd been holding back for 3 weeks threatened to break through. I made you an appointment too, she added, sliding a business card onto my laptop. Dr. Levine. Tuesday at 4. The card read, Elaine Levine, PhD, Family Therapy. I'm not crazy, I whispered. No, Monica agreed. But you've been carrying something heavy for a very long time. It might help to put it down somewhere safe. On Tuesday afternoon, the therapist's office smelled like lemon furniture polish and old books. Dr. Levine wore reading glasses on a beaded chain and sensible shoes that made no sound on the carpet. She didn't rush to fill silences, just waited while I struggled to form words that had never been spoken aloud. Favoritism, I finally said, the word hanging between us like a newly discovered planet. My entire life. And how did that make you feel? She asked. Like I was worth exactly $2, I answered. Later that week, the apartment Andrea showed me was small, 650 square feet with a kitchenette barely wide enough for a refrigerator. But the windows faced west, catching afternoon sunshine that spilled across hardwood floors. It was mine by nightfall. I bought a futon, a lamp, and a small desk. Nothing more. The emptiness felt intentional rather than impoverished. Space to grow into. Monica dragged me to a community center the following Saturday. Pottery class, she announced. You need something that isn't work or therapy. I protested until my hands sank into cool clay, feeling it yield and resist simultaneously. The instructor, a woman with silver hair and paint-spattered overalls, stood behind me. Don't force it, she murmured. Listen to what it wants to become. My fingers trembled as they shaped something from nothing. By class end, I'd created a small, imperfect bowl with uneven edges. It was hideous and beautiful and entirely mine. The first video call came 4 weeks after Christmas. I answered on the third ring, steeling myself against the familiar surge of guilt their faces triggered. Where have you been? Dad demanded immediately, his face filling the screen, red with indignation. Your mother has been worried sick. Behind him, Mom dabbed at eyes that remained strategically dry. San Francisco, I answered calmly. I transferred offices. Without discussing it with us first? Mom interjected, pushing into frame. How could you be so inconsiderate? The old pull tugged at my chest. Apologize, placate, make it right. But Dr. Levine's words echoed. Your feelings are valid. Their reactions belong to them, not you. I needed space, I said instead. Space from what? Dad barked. From family? From responsibility? From growing up? From feeling invisible? I replied, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. From being valued less than Chelsea? From trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Mom's tears flowed instantly right on cue. How can you say such hurtful things? We've always loved you both the same. I'm not responsible for your feelings anymore, I told her. The words felt like stones I'd been carrying in my mouth for years, finally released. I'm responsible for mine. Dad slammed his palm against the table. This conversation is over until you're ready to apologize. Then I guess we're done talking, I answered, and ended the call. In the days to come, the rumors reached me through LinkedIn messages and texts from former coworkers. According to family lore, I'd had a mental breakdown. I was living in squalor. I'd joined a cult. Chelsea's Instagram showed her looking concerned in tastefully filtered photos, captioned with vague references to family heartbreak and praying for those struggling with mental health. My new coworkers knew nothing of this narrative. They saw only my work, the precision of my calculations, the innovation in my designs. When Chelsea showed up unannounced at the office reception 10 days later, Monica happened to be dropping off lunch. "She's in a meeting," Monica informed her coolly, "and she'll remain in meetings indefinitely for uninvited visitors." My therapy group met Wednesday evenings in a church basement that smelled of coffee and old hymnals. 8 strangers connected by similar wounds. "Family doesn't get a pass just because they're family," said Raymond, a 60-year-old accountant who hadn't spoken to his brother in 20 years. "Love without respect isn't love. It's possession." So, the words settled in my chest like truth. 6 months after Christmas, my apartment had transformed. Pottery lined the windowsills, each piece more refined than the last. A proper bed had replaced the futon. The promotion to senior project manager came with a raise that ended any lingering financial anxiety. On my bookshelf sat the plastic piggy bank. I'd filled it with crisp $2 bills, one for each week of freedom. Not as punishment, but as a reminder. Sometimes the smallest betrayals reveal the largest truths. The first holiday season approached with both dread and relief. No presents to buy that wouldn't be appreciated. No performances to maintain. No diminishment to endure. Just me in a space I'd created, becoming someone I was finally learning to value. Worth far more than $2. A month later, the ivory envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a landmine. 3 days it had been there untouched. Cousin Vanessa's wedding invitation. My name in swooping calligraphy, Iris Collins. No +1. Just me, expected to return to the fold, unaccompanied. "So, what are you thinking, Doctor?" Dr. Winters asked, her office chair creaking as she leaned forward. I traced the edge of the armrest, counting the brass tacks one by one. "I'm going." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "That's a change from last week." "On my terms," I added quickly. "I've booked a room at the Hilton, for blocks from the venue." Dad called twice, insisting I stay at their rental house with everyone. "And what did you say?" "Nothing." I smiled, remembering the satisfaction of letting his voicemail fill with increasingly desperate messages. The boundary is the message. 7 months of therapy had taught me the vocabulary of self-protection. 7 months after Christmas drove away. 7 months of rebuilding myself, one therapy session, one pottery class, one peaceful evening alone at a time. During the session, my phone buzzed. "Chelsea. The 3rd text today. Can't wait to see you next weekend. We need sister time before the wedding madness." I slid the phone back into my purse without responding. Dr. Winters noticed. "Your sister again?" "Suddenly we're best friends," I laughed, but it came out hollow. She never texted this much when we lived in the same city. "What do you think she wants?" "A ride from the airport." "Money." The old Iris who carried her emotional baggage along with her actual luggage. I ran my fingers across the fabric swatch on my lap, midnight blue silk for the dress I'd commissioned. 3 fittings to ensure it hung perfectly from my shoulders. Skimmed my curves without apology. The color of power, not reconciliation. "They've enlisted flying monkeys," I told Dr. Winters. "Uncle Pete called last night about how families need to stick together. Aunt Judith emailed about forgiveness being divine. Even Vanessa's fiancé sent a Facebook message. They're coordinating." "And how does that make you feel?" Before therapy, I would have said fine. Always fine. Instead, I traced the physical truth of my emotions. The tightness in my throat, the cold sweat along my hairline, the slight tremor in my fingers. Terrified, I admitted, but also ready. Later that evening, I spread the seating chart Vanessa had accidentally included in a group email across my kitchen table. There I was, placed between my parents, directly across from Chelsea. The family tableau restored. I reached for my phone. "Vanessa? It's Iris. I have a small request about the seating arrangements." Friday arrived with San Francisco fog that burned away as my plane took off. The clouds parted somewhere over Oregon, revealing the landscape of my childhood. My heartbeat quickened as we began our descent into Portland. The rehearsal dinner location glowed golden against the twilight sky. I stood on the sidewalk, touching the smooth stone pendant Monica gave me before I left. "Strength isn't about not feeling fear," she'd said. "It's about feeling it and walking forward anyway." I straightened my shoulders and pulled open the heavy wooden door. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Heads turned. My mother's hand flew to her throat. My father's drink paused halfway to his lips. I'd changed. The Iris who fled at Christmas was a shadow. This woman, in tailored black pants, an emerald silk blouse, and heels that announced each step with authority, was solid, present. The diamond studs in my ears caught the light as I scanned the room, nodding acknowledgments without rushing toward anyone. Chelsea approached first, arms outstretched, but something was different. The designer watch was gone. The highlights in her hair had grown out. Her smile seemed strained rather than entitled. "You look amazing," she said, embracing me briefly. "Thank you." I stepped back, maintaining the space between us. "How's the BMW treating you?" Her eyes started away. I had to trade it in. Got a Honda. More practical, you know." Beyond her shoulder, I spotted my parents huddled with Aunt Martha. Mother dabbed at her eyes with a cocktail napkin. Father's shoulders slumped forward in a posture I'd never seen before. Cousin Tara appeared at my elbow, vodka tonic in hand. "God, am I glad you're here," she whispered. "You wouldn't believe the drama since Christmas." "Oh, your parents are selling the house." She leaned closer. "Medical bills, they say, but everyone knows they've been floating Chelsea for years." Reality finally caught up. Before I could respond, a waiter circulated with champagne. I took a glass, watching the bubbles rise and burst against the surface. Just like the family stories, what rises eventually pops. Uncle Simon approached, clasping my free hand. "You're looking well, Iris. That job in San Francisco must agree with you." "Senior project manager now," I said, the words still tasting new on my tongue. His eyes widened. "No kidding? That's wonderful." More relatives orbited toward me throughout the evening. Cousin Michael confessed he always noticed how differently I was treated. Aunt Martha hugged me too tightly, whispering, "Your father lost his job 3 months ago. Your mother's on anxiety medication." I absorbed each revelation with the strange detachment of someone watching waves break against a shore from which they'd retreated to higher ground. My father cornered me during cocktail hour, bourbon heavy on his breath. "Family sticks together, Iris." His voice carried the familiar weight of authority, but something essential had crumbled beneath it. "No matter what." "Does it, Dad?" I met his gaze without flinching. "Or do some family members stick together while others get pushed aside?" His face reddened. "We've always supported you." $2 in a piggy bank. The words came out softer than I expected, but they landed with precision. "That was your definition of support." He opened his mouth, closed it, then walked away. In the ladies' room, my mother appeared beside me at the sink, eyes swimming with tears. "We miss you so much," she said, reaching for my hand. I continued washing my hands, the soap slippery between my fingers. "I miss who I thought you were, too." Back in the main room, Chelsea pulled me onto the terrace. The evening air carried the scent of roses from the garden below. "The BMW got repossessed," she blurted out. "I'm drowning in debt, design clients dried up, Dad can't help anymore." Her voice cracked. "I don't know how to do this, Iris. I never learned how to stand on my own." The confession hung between us. 7 months ago, I would have immediately offered solutions, money, and a place to stay. The old Iris would have added this burden to her collection. Instead, I placed my hand gently on her arm. "That sounds really hard, Chelsea." I felt compassion without responsibility, a distinction that took months of therapy to learn. "I'm sorry you're going through that." Her eyes widened slightly at my response, compassion without rescue. "I can help make a budget," I offered, "but I can't fix this for you." Over her shoulder, I saw Vanessa in her pre-wedding glow, surrounded by bridesmaids. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. But tonight, standing on this terrace, with the weight of family expectations sliding off my shoulders like water, I realized I was no longer afraid. I was the woman who had walked away from a lifetime of diminishment, who had built a life from the foundation up. Whatever came next, I would face it standing firmly on the ground of my own making. The next day, I stood in the bridal suite of the Magnolia Gardens, watching as my cousin Vanessa transformed from nervous bride to radiant woman. The morning sun poured through tall windows, casting everything in a gentle golden light that felt at odds with the storm brewing in my chest. "Iris, your parents are looking for you," Aunt Martha whispered, her fingers gentle on my forearm. "They're in the library," said it's important. I knew this moment was coming. 7 months since I'd walked out of their Portland home, leaving nothing but a note and a lifetime of resentment behind. "Thanks, Martha." My voice sounded calmer than I felt. "I'll find them after I help Vanessa with her veil." Martha's eyes softened. "They mentioned something about a family emergency before the ceremony." Of course they did. The library door felt heavier than physics should allow as I pushed it open 30 minutes later. Mom sat ramrod straight in a high-backed chair, tissues already clutched in her hand. Dad paced by the fireplace, his movements sharp and contained. Chelsea stood by the window, wearing a dress that cost more than my first month's rent in San Francisco, though the repossessed BMW was nowhere to be seen. "Iris, thank God." Mom rose, arms outstretched. "We need to talk as a family." I remained in the doorway. "The ceremony starts in 40 minutes. Sit down, Iris." Dad gestured to the empty chair, positioned to face all three of them. A staged intervention. This can't wait any longer. I closed the door behind me but didn't move toward the chair. "I'm listening." Chelsea stepped forward. "Iris, this has gone far enough. Dad lost his job 3 months ago. The company downsized." Dad interjected quickly, "Budget cuts. Mom's been seeing a therapist for depression," Chelsea continued. "This all started when you left at Christmas." Mom dabbed at dry eyes. "We're selling the house." The perfect trifecta. Financial crisis, health concerns, and guilt, wrapped in one neat package. 7 months ago, I would have crumpled under the weight of their expectations, apologized for something that wasn't my fault, and offered to help. Today, I walked to the indicated chair, set my purse beside it, and sat with my spine straight. "I'm sorry to hear about your job, Dad." "And Mom, I'm glad you're getting help." Their faces registered confusion at my calm response. "Didn't you hear what we said?" Chelsea's voice rose. "They're selling the house because of you." "No," I countered. "They're selling the house because of choices they made long before I left." I removed a leather-bound photo album from my purse. "I brought something to show you." Mom frowned. "We don't have time for you called this meeting," I cut in. "So we have time." I opened the album across my lap. The first page showed 2 birthday parties side by side, Chelsea's elaborate princess theme, with hired entertainers, and my party the same year, with a grocery store cake at the kitchen table. Remember these? I flipped through pages of Christmas mornings, graduations, and family vacations where the pattern of favoritism was unmistakable. I'd spent months compiling evidence of what I always felt but couldn't prove. Dad's face flushed. "This is ridiculous. We always treated you girls equally." I pulled out a folder of bank statements. My student loans. $67,000 that I'm still paying. Chelsea's education? Fully funded, including her year in Europe for art inspiration. Chelsea shifted uncomfortably. "That's not fair. You chose engineering. That was your decision." "It was my passion," I corrected her. "Just like art was yours. The difference is, my passion wasn't considered worth investing in." Mom rose, hands trembling. "We didn't have the money when you went to college." "Things were different by the time, Chelsea. I learned everything about your financial records years ago, Mom." I cut her off. "Dad's promotion came when I was 16. The inheritance from Grandma arrived before my freshman year. You had the money. You chose not to spend it on me." The room grew uncomfortably quiet as I laid out birthday cards spanning 30 years. The messages to Chelsea overflowed with effusive love. Mine contained practical advice and reminders to work hard. "We always knew you'd be fine," Dad finally said, his defensiveness cracking. "You were always so capable." There it was. The truth behind decades of disparity. Being capable doesn't mean I deserved less love. My voice remained steady even as heat built behind my eyes. Being responsible didn't mean I should carry everyone else's burdens. Mom collapsed into genuine, not manipulative, tears. "We never meant to hurt you. Intent doesn't erase impact." I reached into my purse one final time. The plastic piggy bank made a hollow sound as I placed it on the coffee table between us. Dad stared at it. What is this nonsense? I removed the rubber stopper. Dozens of crisp $2 bills spilled out, unusual currency that caught the eye. I've saved a $2 bill for every week since Christmas, I explained. This isn't about money. It's about what you thought I was worth. Chelsea picked up one of the bills, turning it over in her fingers. I never realized how it looked from your side. Her voice lacked its usual defensive edge. They never taught me to stand on my own. Outside the library, relatives passed by, their voices floating through the heavy door. In minutes, they'd gathered to celebrate love and commitment while our family confronted decades of its absence. I don't want apologies, I said, standing. I want change. I walked toward the door. I'll consider reconciliation under 2 conditions: family therapy and respect for my boundaries. Dad opened his mouth to argue, but Mom placed her hand on his arm. We'll do it, she said, surprising us all. Whatever it takes. I gathered my evidence and the piggy bank, but left its contents on the table. That's yours to keep. A reminder of what happens when you value one child over another. Walking toward the door, I paused with my hand on the knob. I need to take my seat for the ceremony. My friend Monica is saving me a place. As I stepped into the hallway, my back straight and heart lighter than it had been in months, I heard Chelsea whisper to our parents, "She's different now." She was right. The woman who left that Christmas morning carrying nothing but grief and resolution was gone. In her place stood someone who finally understood her own worth wasn't measured by what others thought she deserved, but by what she refused to accept. 1 year later, on Christmas Day, the sunshine spilled across the hardwood floors of my San Francisco apartment as friends gathered around a table that actually belonged to me. The scent of rosemary and sage from the roasting turkey mingled with laughter, real laughter, not the strained kind that used to echo through my parents' house. To Iris, Monica raised her glass, her dark curls catching the light from the window. Who builds bridges better than anyone I know, both at work and in life? My cheeks warmed at the toast. 1 year ago today, I had placed a house key on a counter and driven away from everything familiar. Now I stood in an apartment filled with people who chose to be here, surrounded by pottery pieces I had created with my own hands. And to Senior Project Manager Collins, added Elliot, his fingers brushing mine under the table, his touch still sent electricity through me, not the lightning strike of infatuation, but the steady current of something building toward permanence. Whose team finished the Richardson Tower project 2 weeks ahead of schedule? Elliot understood deadlines and structural integrity, an environmental engineer who valued sustainability in buildings and relationships alike. When he first asked me to coffee 6 months ago, I almost declined. Old habits of self-sacrifice die hard. My therapist, Dr. Winters, called it progress when I said yes. The kitchen timer chimed, saving me from having to acknowledge their praise. Some changes take longer than others. Need help? Asked Elliot, following me into the kitchen. I've got it, the words slipped out automatically. Then I caught myself, remembering Dr. Winter's gentle challenge. Accepting help doesn't diminish your strength. Actually, I said, turning to him, a small smile playing on my lips. Could you carve the turkey? I never learned how. My phone vibrated with a video call from Chelsea. Monthly calls, a boundary we'd established after the wedding confrontation. I answered while Elliot handled the carving. Merry Christmas, Chelsea said, her face filling the screen. Her apartment visible behind her looked smaller than mine. No designer furniture, no luxury car parked outside. Working 2 jobs had given her a new perspective on money, along with the shadows under her eyes. You look happy, she said, her voice softer than it used to be. Your place looks beautiful. It feels like home. I angled the camera to show my pottery studio in the spare bedroom, once formless clay now shaped into bowls and vases that lined the shelves. How are Mom and Dad? Dad's 90 days sober today, he wanted me to tell you. She adjusted the camera to reveal our father sitting in a modest apartment living room, looking smaller somehow. The AA meetings are helping. He's different when he's not drinking. I nodded, not ready to fully process that revelation. And Mom? Still volunteering at the community center. She wanted to come to the call but had an emergency food drive. Chelsea paused. They ask about you. Not in the old way, though. We talked for a few more minutes before saying goodbye. The wall clock showed it was time for dinner. Around my table, conversation flowed easily between Monica, Elliot, and friends from my engineering firm and pottery class. No one mentioned the piggy bank displayed on my mantel, now filled with dollar bills representing lessons rather than resentment. After dessert, Chelsea texted a photo of a handmade clay ornament, clearly her first attempt at pottery. Not pretty, but made with love. Mailing it tomorrow. Then another message arrived from my mother. Found this in the attic while downsizing. It always belonged to you. The attachment showed my childhood dollhouse, the one thing I truly loved growing up. The deed transfer paperwork sat below it, officially making it mine. Later, when everyone had gone and Elliot helped with the last dishes, I stepped onto my balcony. San Francisco Bay stretched before me, lights from the bridges reflecting on dark water. Buildings I'd helped design stood in silhouette against the night sky. Worth isn't something you earn through usefulness, I whispered to the city lights. It's something you claim by knowing what you will and won't accept. Elliot joined me, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders against the December chill. Deep thoughts? Just grateful, I answered, leaning into his warmth. Sometimes the greatest gift is realizing what you won't accept anymore. The piggy bank sat visible through the window, no longer a symbol of what I lacked, but what I found the courage to value myself first.